how does this court system work? The key is it goes by measure for measure, meaning whatever we do, there's an equal reaction that comes back, right? It might be kind of hard to imagine. A lot of people might call it karma. Think of it as cause and effect. Even science, quantum physics, identifies that there is this idea that every action creates an equal reaction. It doesn't always come back in the way that we see it. It might even take years before that reaction comes back. However, it's not up to us. There's a heavenly system that's sort of overseeing things behind the scenes that dictate when those effects of the actions that we did come back to us. Now, if we understand that every action that we do has a consequence, whether we do good, there will be some sort of good consequence, or if we do bad, some sort of bad consequence. We know that no matter what we do, we can't avoid the thing that's coming back to us. That effect has to return. There has to be some sort of process to go through. There are two ways to experience that process, right? Let's get a little, can I have a volunteer? A volunteer from the audience, a little bit of acting? Yes, Eileen?
Yeah, that's a culture.
Yeah, someone who isn't shy. Everyone give a hand to Eileen for being brave. Eileen has been a bad girl. For whatever reason, things that she's done in the past year have created a situation where she, God forbid, warrants to have a car hit her. God forbid, this is also a scenario. Don't worry, she's really not a bad girl. I know her very well. Now, let's say, God forbid, she had a situation where she deserves to have a car hit her in March. Okay? Right now, during this time, in the month of Virgo, between now and Yom Kippur, she has the ability to think, okay, what are the areas that I did bad in the past year, and let me change that. Okay? What is she actually doing with this process of taking accountability? She's doing something very powerful. Let's say March comes and we have, you stand right here for a second, go to the left. Let's say this is Eileen, this is bad Eileen, okay? And bad Eileen is destined to have a car come by and hit her in March, okay? Let's say hypothetically, Eileen takes accountability for what she's done and she now changes. She's no longer bad Eileen, she's Eileen 2.0. Right? What's going to happen is that car that was destined to hit her is going to drive right by and Eileen 2.0 is gone. She's a different person. She just avoided that bad thing by virtue of her changing. Thank you very much. Let's give her another round of applause. What was the point of this illustration? What we're trying to show is that when you change and take accountability, you're literally a different person. And when you become a different person, all the negative effects that were to come to you will no longer come to you. Now, we're not interested in just trying to avoid bad things. We want to bring good things to ourselves, right? So how do we use this idea of a court system to bring about good things for us? We know that Rashi teaches us another principle. He teaches us that a person who is kind and goes out of their way to do good upon others, even when they don't deserve it, what you do is you're awakening mercy such that you even get things that you don't deserve. So let's say, for example, you lend someone a lot of money, right? And you happen to see them, and you might say to the person, listen, I know I lent you some money, and you might not have it. You know what? I'll just give you an example. What I was saying is, let's say you lend someone money, and you see that person, and the person comes and says, you know what, I don't have the money yet, that I know I'm supposed to owe it to you, I'm supposed to give it to you today, but I don't have it, it's not available. So you know what, that's okay, take your time, pay me when you're able to do so. What are you doing at that second? At that second, you're acting beyond what's reasonable. You're acting out of mercy and compassion. And the law of cause and effect that we just described means that because you acted that way, the heavenly court has to give you some sort of compassion or mercy in exchange. Right? So let's say, for example, someone insults you, someone did you wrong in a big way, and you don't want to get back at them. And you're so tempted to. But do you know what he did to me? How can I talk this? But I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him good. No. I'm going to take a step back. What do I do in that second when I'm bringing in mercy? At that second, when we want to go and we want to ask, because we all ask, whether we know it or not. Actually, the Talmud says that even a robber prays. When he's stealing something, he might be hiding, and he's sort of clenching his fist and praying he doesn't get caught. So whether we know it or not, we all pray at one point or another. We all have a point where we're sitting and we're asking God for something, whether it's on Rosh Hashana before. If we want to come to the place and we want to get what we want, if we haven't done what it takes to earn those things that we're asking for, guess what? The law of justice says you're not going to get it. But if you're a person who is merciful and compassionate, and you were kind to the people who didn't even deserve it, God says, you know what? Even though you don't deserve it, you get it. Because you treated people with kindness even when they didn't deserve it. Make sense? So, part of what I'm trying to achieve is I'm trying to show that everything that we're learning is not just about morals and ethics and let's be nice and, you know, maybe there's a God out there who might punish me, I better be a good person. This is actually a system. This is a pattern that's put in place for us to be able to create what we want out of our coming year and to be able to get everything that we're trying to manifest. So let's take a step back. We talked, that Rashi mentioned that a person who is truthful has nothing to hide, has nothing to fear. I'm sorry, what does that mean? Now if we know, if we're going on day of reckoning, we're going on court, if we already acknowledged all those things that are wrong, all those things that we knew we shouldn't have done, then guess what? The law of cause and effect says we won't be judged for those things that we did. There's a line in the prayers of Rosh Hashana where it says that God forgets all of the bad things that you remember, and God remembers all of the good things that you did that you forgot. This is actually an amazing line that, if we think about it, what does that mean? Right? You do something good, if you remember it, if you forget about it, God will remember it. Is there anything more annoying than someone who does something good, comes and rubs it in your face every single time you see them? I mean, does it achieve anything? You know what I mean? It's almost as if, okay, I wish you didn't do that nice thing for me. You know what I mean? And actually, in a spiritual sense, we're not really getting the spiritual gift, so to speak, of what we did because we're remembering it. And it's almost like we're putting conditions on what we're doing. But if you forget about the good that you did, don't worry. God will remember. The same thing, the secret that Rashi is revealing is that if we remember all of the things that we did wrong in the year, we can't be judged for them. In the coming year, they'll be forgotten, they'll be wiped clean. So, the month of Virgo, we know, is that time that gives us that opening to be able to see, oh, wait a minute, I don't know what I did bad or where I went wrong, right? A starting point is you can start by asking people that you know. Actually, to go with the whole theme of how Virgo is about seeing the cracks of the clay that we talked about, ironing out the details. It's not a coincidence that every single Torah portion that's read in the month of Virgo has to do with the idea of justice, or the idea of cause and effect, or introspection in some capacity. For example, there's a portion called Shoftim, which means judges, right? It's all about appointing judges to see how people can be punished, so on and so forth. One thing that you can do is go to people that you know and ask them, you know what, are there things that I've done that offended you? Are there things that you think I can change about myself? That's one place that you can start to identify the things that we need to take accountability for in order that we don't pay the consequences for them during the coming year. Okay? Now, going into Rosh Hashana Yom Kippur. Let's say, how many have been in this situation? You're invited to a pool party, it's a few weeks out, and you're fasting, you're dieting, you're working out like you've never worked out in your life before, because you know you want to look good when you go to that pool party, right? Anyone been in that situation before? Don't raise your hand. Why can't you work out like that? Why can't you fast with the whole year, right? Think about it this way. This is like the best pool party in the world. And the days before, we want to do everything we can. We want to fast, we want to diet, we want to exercise our spiritual muscle to impress in the best way. And I'll tell you, you'll get much more out of it than you will out of dieting and fasting for a pool party. Okay?